Welcome to the Darkstream, Vox Day, voxday.net, and unauthorized.tv. Let's see if we're going on D Live here yet. Looks like we are. So let me fire that chat up, and we'll see how we're doing here. So, let's see. There we go. So, today, we're going to talk about the bone to pick that I have with one Mr. Alex McCree. And the issue that I have is, as you may know, he has launched the second version of his role-playing game system, Adventurer, Conqueror, King system. And frankly, I just think it's mistitled. I think it's misnamed. You know, I think that it should be called Adventurer, Conqueror, Dark Lord, King. You know, give people what they really want, the chance to experience living as a Dark Lord. You know, I think that it's clearly something that a lot of people fantasize about, literally. They write entire books about it. Thank you, Baron of Gray Matter says the bigger, better bookshelf. Yeah, I did have I did acquire some new old books, and we've transitioned the games to the game room. So most of them, not all of them. You can still see some behind me, but anyhow, now, even with this unforgivable omission, even with this egregious offense to Dark Lords across the multiverse, nevertheless, it has to be admitted that Alex is one of us. He's part of the greater community, and one of the things that I complain a lot about. Maybe I don't complain about it so much, but something that irritates me quite a bit is that the right is absolutely horrific about supporting each other. And when I talk about the right, I'm not saying everybody on the right. Obviously, you guys are great. The unauthorized community is great. The Archaven community is great. The Castalia community is absolutely formidable. I'm not talking about you guys. I'm talking about people like me. I'm talking about people like Alex. I'm talking about people like Owen, Cernovich, Milo, all these people. And, one of the things that's really very annoying, one of the things that's really strategically retarded is the way that the right, being very individualist from our perspective, perhaps being very narcissistic or greedy from some of our critics' perspectives, we're really, really bad about helping out others. John De La Rose has been talking about how the Bane Ankle Biters Brigade has done nothing but attempted to attack him and bring him down. Really? You don't have enough problems? You don't have enough enemies with the SJWs? Have you ever heard any of those people say anything, not just nice about me, but about Archaven or Castalia or the great work that the people involved in those teams are doing? Castalia is doing stuff that literally no other publishing company in the entire world, no matter how big or small, is doing. You're just beginning to see some of that. Some of the biggest authors in the world, Brandon Sanderson, is literally imitating what we've been doing. Um, and do you ever hear them talk about that? Do you ever hear them want to support it, want to work with it? You know, most of them would rather attack you. Sam says, St. Iphon has lamented the fact that almost no one was there after his deplatforming. Yeah, we were there, but we were about it. Unauthorized was about it. You know, and you talk to somebody who, I mean, and it's a catch-22 when you're dealing with a publishing company. You know, it doesn't do you or the author any good if nobody's interested in them. But as soon as an author gets big enough to be self-publishing, then he's wondering, well, what's in it for me? Why don't I just do my own thing? And here's the reason, is because if you don't build up institutions, you will eventually fade and fail. And most people, no matter how successful, cannot build an institution. You know, they don't have the wherewithal, they don't have the bandwidth, they don't have the personality. You know, because building up yourself, turning yourself into some sort of celebrity is a lot easier than actually building a structure that has nothing to do with you and that will survive after you're no longer relevant. You know, my entire goal with both Unauthorized and Castalia and also Archaven has been to render myself irrelevant. You know, I've said we always know when that we're successful when people say, "Oh, well, he had nothing to do with it." That's not a bad sign. That's the ultimate success. You know, a lot of people couldn't tell you who the founder of the Republican Party is, who the founder of the Democratic Party is. They couldn't tell you the names of the original Zionists. But those people built institutions that lasted well beyond them. Now, obviously, an institution can be good or it can be evil. You know, how long is Tor going to survive Tom Doherty? We'll find out. How long is Bain Books going to survive the loss of Jim Bain? You know, the ultimate success of a founder is how well his creation survives beyond his cult of competence. And so what I'm getting at here is, this is why we have attempted to support other folks like Owen, like Razor, like St. Iphon, John Delarose, et cetera, et cetera. It's also why we're supporting Autark's new Kickstarter, which, by the way, thanks to those of you who have supported it, this was a very, very important one. I think this is like their 13th one, but this is far and away the most important one that they've ever done. And let's take a look and see how it's doing. Now, this is in Swiss francs, so it's now up to 167,000 on its original goal of 50,000. 842 backers. Among them is Castalia, but that's not the kind. That's not the kind of support I'm talking about, and I'll get to that in a minute. So, for those of you who are into role-playing games, this is kind of the ultimate role-playing game system, and it's revised and improved and uh, heavily, heavily tested. And this is ultimately what you're focused on, which is the 3 hardcovers of the Imperial imprint. And here's one area where Castalia is supporting Axe, as it's known. Axe and Chuck Dixon's Conan. We are pleased to announce that we have partnered with the legendary comics writer Chuck Dixon, creator of Bane and the Birds of Prey, to develop an Axe 2 sourcebook set in the world of Chuck Dixon's Conan, his best-selling series of sword and sorcery novels, published by Castalia, that builds on the public domain works of Robert E. Howard. Conan is the archetype of the adventurer who becomes a king, and only Axe 2 can offer an RPG experience that lets you advance from savage swordsman to tread the jeweled thrones of the earth under your sandaled feet. All backers of Axe 2 will be invited to participate in the development and playtesting of the Chuck Dixon's Conan sourcebook, the early access to rules draft. So I believe the intent is ultimately to do a Kickstarter in the future once the sourcebook is developed. Obviously, it's going to be a smaller scale one because it's just a sourcebook. But we arranged for that to take place, but that's not what I'm talking about. It's a form of support, but it's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is we have in the community a number of people who are pretty serious and hardcore about role-playing games. Go ahead and share with me if you're watching this. Let me know if you are a hardcore or a moderate RPG guy. I am not, but I am RPG savvy because I was a big fan of Traveller when I was a kid. And we actually acquired the rights to Traveller back in the Fenris Wolf days, and we put together, we actually hired Julian LaFay away from Bethesda, and we were doing a launch title for the Sega Katana, later the Dreamcast, which was a science fiction role-playing game with the Traveller license. Could have been epic, could have been legendary. Unfortunately, Sega of Japan shut down Sega of America and gave all the money to the Arsenal Football Club to sponsor their jerseys. Not a great idea. But so anyhow, what we're planning to do, and I had a conversation with Autark about this, and they're very amenable to it, is I propose that people in the community who are interested in RPGs, and I mean seriously interested in RPGs, come together and we produce RPGs for a science fiction one for Quantum Mortis, a fantasy one for Arts of Dark and Light, and also a vampire one for Midnight's War. This would be something that, this would be a pure labor of love and culture war thing. Castalia will contribute the costs of the artwork and will, assuming that anything's ever got finished, will also publish it. And so, the problem that happens, and we've heard this, people are like, oh, this is so great. It inspired me to go do my own thing, which they actually generally never get done, right? We've had numerous people contact us. Oh, I'd like to have you publish my RPG with yet another generic fantasy thing with stuff written by somebody who's clearly not a writer. It's terrible, and so, my thinking is that you don't win the culture war by not showing up. And you also don't win the culture war on your own. The only way that you do it is by supporting the right people who are doing the right things. And that support can come in a variety of ways. You know, it can come from doing what people are doing today, financially supporting what Autark's doing. But there's other important ways to do it too. You know, why is it that any book published by anybody, from Milo to Stefan or whatever, I mean, if you've read that book, why haven't you written a brief review and, you know, Fencing Bear popped up. She's got antenna that alert her anytime somebody mentions Culture Wars. You know, there's so many little things that you can do that are essentially free, that don't take very much time. Vox, sorry for my ignorance. Does Castalia make games as well? Well, sort of. We're not doing it yet, but sort of. Fencing Bear wants us to know that Draco Alchemicus Act 2, 1 Casino is going to press. That's good. Congratulations, Fencing Bear. Anyhow, you know, nobody has to decide anything yet. We haven't made any decisions yet. We still have to get, I still have to finish the Alt Hero RPG. The system's already done. It's just a matter of filling in the story stuff and the relevant artwork, of which we have a ton. But, you know, I've been busy finishing finishing things like Midnight's War, which, by the way, we're very close to submitting. We literally just finished Junior Classics 8 last week. We finished Junior Classics 7 about 20 minutes ago. You know, we're getting our act together. We're getting the system together. Things are flowing well, and you know, we've got good people handling stuff now, whether it's shipping, whether it's finishing the books and stuff, so that I'm not even involved, which again is the whole idea, the whole purpose. You know, it lets me do things like publish The Altar of Hate and wrap up A Sea of Skulls and, you know, focus on stuff like the bindery. In fact, you can see behind me, that is a leather-bound Archaven Comics book, which was produced with the first Archaven stamp, actually the first stamp of any kind produced specifically for the bindery. Right now I was just today talking to the manufacturer of small brass stamps, and we're deciding upon which particular font we want to use for those comics and other small run leather books. So, but the thing is that, and I expect that as the bindery grows and that sort of thing, then we're going to see more and more people coming to us, because, you know, nobody else is providing that sort of thing. But I still insist and assert that it is necessary for us to cooperate better, for us to support each other better. You know, I mean, look at the way that the black rap artists are constantly inviting each other to perform on their tracks. You know, why don't we see that in other music forms? You know, why don't we see that in other art forms? Inquisitor Bear has a question. Any chance of a Grand Conan leather omnibus series with Howard's and Dixon's works together? Well, no, because that would be too big for a single leather book. At least I think it would be too big. Um, there is a very good chance, in fact, I would say that there's an inevitability of a Chuck Dixon's Conan leather omnibus. In fact, the only real question is, should we do that separately, or should we do that, um, as part of the Castalia Library subscription? I genuinely don't know. I think what we'll probably do is arrange to take some kind of poll the next time that we send out the library newsletter and just say, hey, what do you think? Is this something that you want? Or do you want us to, focus more strongly on, Jane Austen and, Machiavelli and Dante and other classics? It's really just a question for the subscribers. I mean, for those of you who are subscribers here, share with me, would you like a Chuck Dixon's Conan omnibus to be part of the library subscription? Or would you rather have it be separate? I'm fine either way. Powers at Bear says, does Made in Switzerland gain you any street cred? Not yet, but we're not really doing it yet. I mean, nobody knows we're doing it yet. I bet if you surveyed the 100 best-selling, right to center novelists, about 3 of them would know what you were talking about if you talked about Leatherbound. And probably 2 of them hate me. So, with the one of the things that's important with the subscription is we don't want to be forcing books that are not of interest to people on people. Because it's really not, it's not a book for everybody that, originally subscribed for Plutarch and Dante and Aristotle. I mean, I love the legend. Chuck is a great guy, but I wouldn't necessarily put him up there with Dante, and I don't think he would either. Inquisitor Bear says, can I also lobby for more John C. Wright books? I think what we're eventually going to have to do when we have the bandwidth is eventually we're going to have to, the same way we've separated history from library, I think we're going to have to separate fiction from nonfiction in the subscriptions. I think we need to add, over time, we need to add at least 2 more subscriptions. One would be, the ladies' classics, all the Jane Austen, all the Emmas, the Bronte sisters, all that sort of thing. And then, continue library being what it is, which is, classics, occasionally modern stuff, and then a modern fiction one. People have been very supportive of books like The Promethean and The Missionaries, but those are, The Missionaries in particular is a very, very special and unusual book, and so but we have lots of time to do this. We're already planning to do a subscription for the foreign language stuff. Hopefully the people in charge of that will be able to get their act together and get that rolling reasonably soon. So it's just, it's just one step at a time. It sounds to me like people are pretty split on it. Only a few people who are subscribers have responded, but I think that we'll probably keep it separate. We've got enough stuff that we have to do. I think people are going to be pretty pleased with the next one. Any update on the review of the World War III war game? I think I'll be ready within 2 weeks. I've just about finished reading it, and I think I have a sufficient grasp to begin to do that. Minnesota Trucker Bear says, I really enjoyed City Beyond Time. That would be cool in leather. Yeah, that'd be a great one. I would love to do that. I would love to do that. No Chance says, institutions are vital. The right has a lot of small publishers, meaning small engagement. Well, that's correct, and most of the small publishers that have started have already failed. I mean, Silver Empire was about as well run as a small ebook focused publisher could be, and it didn't make it. Black Gate, prior to that, they're not obviously on the right at all, but they did everything right. The quality of the short fiction that they published was really great, but they had to shut down after, I think, issue 14 or something. Driftless has a valid fear. The completionist in me fears not being able to afford all the subscriptions. Well, I don't think you're intended to. I mean, the whole point of having the separate subscriptions is to provide a set of books, a set of collectible leather books that are very high quality and that appeal to their specific audience. There's so many good books out there. This isn't, and it was never intended to be one thing. If you notice, we've already got a second subscription going. And so we could have just as easily, increased the number of books in the subscription and increased the price and so forth. But we did exactly the opposite. We actually stretched out the number of months to pay for a single book to make it easier to afford. We could theoretically do a subscription where it's only 2 books a year. If that would make it more reasonable and affordable for people that can only do that. We're very well aware of the economic situation. I mean, that I pay attention to economics. And so is a second edition of Awake in the Nightland coming in the foreseeable future? What do you mean by second edition? Like just a cleaned up hardcover? I don't know what. Oh, the leather one. I forgot. Yes. But a complete Castalia first edition collection, it must be done. Well, we'll keep them going, but a second Castalia library edition with the typos fixed. Well, yeah, we need to do another one anyhow because we've been sold out for over a year. So, we're going to do a second edition Missionaries. We're going to do a second edition Meditations, and we're going to do a second edition Awake in the Nightland. No question. So, Silent Draco says, the small publishers also court logistic disasters by selling through Amazon. Well, everyone has to sell through Amazon. We sell through Amazon. What you can't do is you can't be dependent upon it. And we always knew that Amazon was not friendly. So, that was that. Sam Freeman said, "Wonder how hard things have to get before kings of their own thing gives way to teamwork." Well, I think in most uh, situations, they have to fail at least once on their own, or come very near to failure, before they begin to be able to play nice with others. And the thing you also have to keep in mind is that anyone who is successful beyond the norm comes under tremendous pressure, temptation, and is offered a plethora of opportunities to pull them away into doing it themselves, usually with, some partner. So for example, you may recall that Milo had the number one best-selling book, on Amazon. Should have been number one New York Times bestseller. I don't know if they even let it on the list, but it was the best-selling book in the world at the time. And Milo's original plan was to publish it with Castalia. You know, and I mean, he'd probably told me 6 or 7 times, yeah, you guys are publishing this. I'll get you the book. I had, the manuscript and all that stuff. And then his agent, I mean, talk about a conflict of interest. His agent realized how popular the book was going to be. And this is after Simon and Schuster obviously cut it. So he went and talked Milo into setting up his own company, his own publishing company, and which barely survived long enough to publish a second or third book. And I mean, that's an extreme example of the situation, but that's generally what you see. That's one of the reasons why I don't even bother reaching out and contacting people at all. The kind of people that we want to work with contact us. When Alex was preparing Acts 2, he contacted me and said, "Hey, this is what I'm doing. Would you be willing to support it?" I said, "Of course, 100%." And that's how the whole thing with Chuck Dixon's Conan came up. I said, "Look, I'll be happy to support it. Mention it on the blog, etc., etc. We're doing a Darkstream about it." But I said, "What can we do? Do you want to do a source book on Midnight's War? We can let you do that." He said, "Well, yeah, wasn't that interested in that." He said, "Well, what I'd really love to be able to do is something with Chuck Dixon's Conan." I said, "I'll give you. I'll talk to the legend." And took no time at all. So, when you look at, I mean, that's how things could work. That's how things should work. But the problem is it can't work when everybody is, greedy, wants to, is concerned about their mainstream outreach, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, once Unauthorized gets to, I calculate 25,000 subscribers, that's when the popular right-wing YouTubers are going to be like banging on our door. But it's going to take a while. That's probably 2-3 years from now. And so, but the advantage that we have is that we have the only people who are involved are genuinely committed. Are 100% committed. some of them are volunteers, some of them are professionals who this is their sole occupation. But all of them are 100% committed to what we're doing, whether that is the comics front, the book front, whatever. And so this is the only way you're going to get change. This is the only way you're not going to end up with complete and utter shit. Because what's happened in science fiction, what happened first in science fiction, then happened in comics, then happened in video games. You know? Sam says, and Milo doesn't use UATV, never thought he and Wrangler Star would have something in common. Well, again, it's very, very difficult. I mean, if you've got somebody whose brand is rugged individualism and self-sufficiency, it's not a mystery that teamwork and institution building is not one of their priorities. And that's not a criticism. That's a reality. Now, the problem, of course, is that he who lives by YouTube dies on YouTube. It's only a matter of time if you're on YouTube. It's only a matter of time before they kick you off. And it doesn't matter whether you're a right-wing nationalist, a left-winger who finds it difficult to keep up with the constantly shifting narrative, an amoral porn star, a Christian preacher. All of those people are going to find it impossible to stay on YouTube beyond a certain point. And so, and then of course the other challenge, the other problem is that because everybody is pretty small, everybody's just busy treading water. I barely have time to, do a live stream 3-4 times a week. I struggle to remember to put up my one text episode every day. Like I have to remember tonight to put up the new episode of Siege of the Black Citadel. It's easy to just not get around to it. Next thing you know, you've missed 4 days, so you can imagine how difficult it is when somebody calls up and says, hey, can you help me with this? Can you work with me with that? Can you support me on this other thing? Speaking of supporting people on other things, this is what we're talking about tonight. We are talking about Adventurer, Conqueror, Dark Lord, King. It's not actually called Dark Lord King. That's my complaint. But, it is... it's already pushing 175,000 and should have 1,000 backers before the end of the day. So this is really great. This means that we of the right are going to have a role-playing game company around for the foreseeable future. With a definitive role-playing game system, but it's on us to build from that. Just like it's on you guys to keep things like unauthorized rolling, to keep things like Castalia rolling. It's on the role-playing game community to support that by creating things for it, by using it. That's my challenge to everybody who is in the role-playing game community, everybody who has complained about Black Aragorn, everybody who's complained about, all the insane wokery in Dungeons and Dragons, and the fact that you can't call an orc anymore, and all that sort of thing. If you've complained about that stuff, then help make Axe the best and the broadest RPG system out there. You know, don't go running off saying, well, I want to make my own Dungeons and Dragons. You're not going to be successful doing that. You know, work within the framework that is being provided for you. Because the question isn't, well, gee, I'd really like to be my own Gary Gygax. You know, you're not going to be. Inquisitor Bear said, will there be an Axe 40,000? Well, there is already I believe there is already a miniatures game company that is working with Larry Correa. So they're probably the best bet there. That was something I was actually interested in pursuing and was working on back maybe 12, 13 years ago. But, you know, Castelli ended up taking up most of my time. So I just didn't have the bandwidth, and you know, turned out not to have the you know, resources to pursue that at that time. Oh, Games Workshop is plenty converged. You know, Games Workshop is going to crack reasonably soon. We actually had an alliance with the British company that was set up to rival them. I'm spacing on the name right now. Mantis. We had a relationship with Mantis, and we were going to be doing some work with them. In fact, we were actually going to publish their equivalent of the Black Library, and they were going to do some work for us. And then the SJWs in their company rebelled, and they said, "Look, sorry, we just don't think that we can work with you." So, okay, you know, they're not part of our community. We don't support them. We just ignore them. You know. But you know, again, you have to work with people that want to work with you. And you also have to be aware that there are people who are bad actors who will, you know, come in and, hey, I just love what you're doing. I really want to help, and blah, you know, and then the minute they get a chance, as Owen has learned, they'll try to stick a wrench in the spokes. So, but that's pretty easily dealt with, you know. You just keep piling responsibility on people, and the bad actors usually reveal themselves pretty quick. Piling non-mission critical responsibilities on them, that is. So, but anyhow, like I said, this is something that we're going to be looking to do more of, in terms of, like, how can we help? You know, if you're a comics creator and you're going to do a Kickstarter, you know, we'll make it possible for you to offer some leather-bound options. You know, if you're doing games of any kind, you want to use one of our licenses, come talk to us. You know, to say that we will be reasonable is an understatement, because, again, it's not about the money. It's about preserving the good, the beautiful, and the true in our hobbies. You know, because that is being methodically and systematically extinguished by the companies that have taken over those hobbies. You know, it's on the one hand, it's really tragic, and it's really annoying, and it's really upsetting to those of us who have various products from our youth that we love. On the other hand, it's an opportunity. You know, it's a real opportunity to do interesting things, to make a difference. You know, so anyhow, thanks very much for tuning in. It's actually nice to have a chance to do a dark stream and not talk about all the awful things going on around the world, but to talk about some of the positive stuff, the fun stuff, the stuff that we enjoy doing. So, on that note, I wish you all a good evening. I'm Vox Day. If you're an RPG guy or a gamer, go check out the Axe 2 Kickstarter. The link is on the blog. The links are here in the chat. We'll see you at the next Darkstream. I'm Vox Day.